Hello everyone and welcome to Harv's World for part 5 of the Ravenport walkthrough for beginners. Now today we are going to be focusing on harvesting and selling our crops. Now our soybean field is perfectly ready to go, but I have a nice little example here because our crop grew a little strangely in this smaller field. We put the canola in, remember? One of your homework assignments. I can show you the difference between almost ready to harvest and ready to harvest. If you hadn't figured this out already, this is canola in its third stage of growth. Not quite there, but almost. When it turns brown like this, you know it's ready to harvest. And it doesn't matter, if we look at our map and we go to our growth, it doesn't matter. There's 3 stages of ready to harvest: yellow, light orange, and dark orange. It doesn't matter which stage you harvest in, you're going to get the same amount. So do it as soon as you can so you can get your field working for you again. So at this point you all should have a pretty good handle on harvesting fields. The big goal today is figuring out what the best way to sell them is going to be. Now obviously we are going to need our harvester, and we're also going to look at using helpers a little bit today, so we'll start getting helpers added into the mix here. In fact, that reminds me, so I am going to be harvesting my fields today, but I noticed a great big $20,000 fertilizing contract up on field 4. I'm going to accept that contract, and I'll tell you, I've already moved our tractor and fertilizer spreader up to field 4. So I'm going to enter that vehicle, get started, pull it up into the field just a little bit. We know we can fertilize here, but instead of taking care of this on my own, I'm going to hit the H key, and that's going to put a helper in charge of this tractor. And this helper is going to go fertilize this field for me. Now I'm going to pay this helper a little bit, maybe as much as $1,000, $1,500, but it frees me up to get back to my farm and start harvesting. Double bonus, I'm making money while I'm making money. So now you will get alerts that the contract is done or whatever. You just have to bop back over there and take over from your helper. But that's how simple helpers can be. Now helpers are simple, I have to warn you. They do not navigate obstacles well, so if there's a tree on the end of your field, if the field is oddly shaped, helpers are not going to do a good job on that. For helpers to be perfectly fantastic, they need to be on square fields, basically, that run north, south, east, and west. Now sometimes they can sort out oddities, but most of the time they are going to be trouble. That's just a fact of farming simulator life. One thing that you can do to help your helpers, say that 3 times fast, one thing you can do to help your helpers is what I've been talking about before. You can do what are known as headland passes, and that's opening up your field by working around the edge first, because it gives the helper more room to work. The helper knows what's been done on the field and what hasn't, and so if it sees that the edge has been done, they'll know to turn around sooner. So especially if there's trees and obstacles in the way, your helpers will use your field space instead of the space around the tree to do their job. So that's what I'm doing right here, opening up the field by cutting around the headland. An important bit of knowledge for, especially for first time players, sorting out some of the little intricacies of how different things work in the game can be a little bit of a challenge. So I like to just pass that information along. I've learned a lot of it the hard way, either by playing on my own or watching others play and sorting out what they're doing. So when I get this first headland pass done, I might just hand over this harvesting to a worker, and then we might grab a grain trailer and see what we can do about helping them get farther along. And what I mean by that is, I'll show you a few little things that you can do to ease your path into unloading a harvester while it's on the move. Because frankly, I don't know why, but that was a skill that took me a while to master. I really don't know why. But yeah, I did not pick up on that quickly. And it's because I wasn't utilizing all of the systems in the game to my full advantage. So that's really the biggest issue. Okay, so to set up a helper, you need to line up your tool in the direction you want the helper to drive. Kind of get it lined up as close to where you want them to start as possible. And then for me, I just hit H. And now that helper is out there harvesting my field for me. That gives me the opportunity again to go do something else. And I'm going to grab my tractor. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to set the maximum speed, and I do this by holding down the 1 key. I'm going to set that to 6. So 1 and 2, 1 lowers your maximum speed, and if you look at the speedometer in the lower right hand side, you can see that's your maximum speed number that you see me changing right now. So I'm going to set that to 6. Now when you hit cruise control, the fastest your tractor will go is that 6 miles per hour. And again, our field, because it's not perfectly flat, is going to struggle a little bit. We'll be able to pick that back up later though. Now one thing to remember with helpers, you do need to keep an eye on them because they're not going to do the job perfectly every single time. Now the next thing I'm going to do is get over on the side of the harvester where the pipe is located. And I'm going to try to judge the distance between the harvester and the tractor. And when I get in a good position, I'm just going to hit cruise control and drive right down along the tractor. Now I can do this through the field right now because I have crop destruction turned off. If crop destruction was turned on, I'd have to wait until the harvester turned around. Otherwise, as I drive through the field, my tires would be smashing all of this grain and it would destroy it. So keep that in mind also. We do not have a very big trailer, and on a field like this, well, on this starting farm, we don't necessarily need to worry too much about unloading the harvester because we can just drive it right over to our silo and unload. But in other places, other areas, these are skills that you will want to master, being able to unload a harvester on the move. So at this point, I'm going to finish getting this soybean field harvested, and then we're going to look at what's the best way to take care and sell our crops. So I will talk to you again in just a little bit. Alright, so I am just finishing up this soybean harvest on our big new field. Or a big field. The field we made. And of course, because it's rough terrain, we've got a few little spots here and there, and just coming at them from a different direction, just like we did when we were seeding, will help clean those up. And that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm coming at them from a different direction. just like so. Because again, what happens sometimes, there'll be a bump, so the harvester will sort of lift up and then miss because it's not low enough to the ground. But okay. So we've got all of our soybeans off the field, and now what are we going to do? Well, I touched on this just a little bit in the previous episode about contracts, but we're going to take a more in-depth look as this harvester finishes unloading. So you want to go to the prices screen. That's this icon right here. And the prices screen gives you a lot of information. The first thing that it does, it tells you how much space you have in your own silo. So this is the silo we own. Our capacity is 100,000. We harvested a little bit of wheat, so we've got some wheat in there. If I go down to soybeans, which is this icon right here, I can see that this field just brought in 14,389 liters of soybeans, because that's how much I have in the silo. I started with 0. This is what I've harvested, 14,000. That's pretty good for a field that size. It's real good. Now, something else that it tells you is, well, silos other total capacity. Well, what other silos could we possibly have? There's 400,000 liters of storage out there we have available to us. Well, if we look at our map and we see Railroad Silo East, that's a silo that has 200,000 liters of storage we could use. There's a second one, Railroad Silo West, all the way out here. And we could store 200,000 liters of anything or any grain we wanted to in that also. Now, they're not very convenient to us, and frankly, this map is not designed well to use railroads. Some maps have trains on them, and don't get me wrong, you can use the train to move grain around. So you could move grain from Railroad Silo West and use the train to move it to Railroad Silo East or to the port grain elevator. But that doesn't do us a lot of good because we can't sell it there. Some maps are set up so that you load up at a silo, you can take it right to your sale point, but not this one. But I'm getting off track. So anyway, we do have those extra storages out there, and you can find those on other maps as well. So just keep that in mind. Now, on our prices menu, it says prices per 1,000 liters. So whatever price we can get for soybeans, it's going to be times 14. 14.389 if you want to be exact, because it's per 1,000. So we've got 14.389 thousand liters, or times 1,000. With that said, mathematics out the window. The other thing we see on this menu is where we can sell. So we've got a sell location: the barn, central grain elevator, port grain elevator, ranch, restaurant, sawmill, and spinnery. And then as we scroll across this menu, we can see all of the different types of things we can sell. So we have wheat, barley, oats, canola, sunflower, soybean, corn. And if we scroll across, we have potatoes, sugar beets, cotton, sugarcane, eggs, wool, milk. And these are not very self-explanatory, but I'm going to show you where to look if you forget, at least for some of them. Milk, wood chips, silage, grass, hay, straw, manure, and slurry. Manure and slurry are produced by animals like pigs and cows. So the next thing that we need to do, we know we have soybeans and we know we want to sell them. So if I just click on this soybean icon right here, it's going to shuffle these prices, or it's going to list these prices from high to low, like so. Right now we can see the best price for soybeans is at the central grain elevator, and they're paying $28.77 per 1,000 liters. That's pretty darn good. In fact, I will put a list up on the screen right now of the prices you should sort of be looking for when you're trying to sell your crops. Now, as you look at this table, you can see I've got all the crops listed on the left, and I'm showing you prices when you start on New Farmer, Farm Manager, and Start from Scratch. Now, keep in mind, you'll notice that a lot of these prices seem very low. Take sugar beets, for example, $4.50 compared to $2,800 for soybeans. Well, the reason that this is $4.50 is because sugar beet per acre generates a lot more crop. So if I got 1,000 liters of soybeans off of an acre, let's say, for example, an acre of the same for sugar beet is probably going to give me somewhere around 10 or 12,000 liters. So don't let the prices fool you. A lot of times the price is based on the quantity you get per acre. So keep that in mind when you're deciding what to plant and what you want to harvest. Okay, so we know we want to take our soybeans to the central grain elevator. We're just going to find that on the map. It's way out here on the other side. So we can tag that. And I think we all know how to get around the map a little bit by now. So with that said, I'm just going to move my harvester out of the way. I'm going to grab my grain trailer, and you know, I completed that contract for the fertilizer, so I got my 20,000 there, and then I've already got my helper working on another big fertilizer contract. So what I'm going to do, now at this point we have enough money, we could buy a bigger trailer. But I think for the time being, I'm just going to bump the capacity on this one up to 12,000 and spend the $2,000. So I can haul 12,000 liters of soybeans at a time in this trailer now. And we want the soybeans, not the wheat. Okay, so you just load up your trailer and take it to whatever place your map is telling you has the best price. Again, that's going to be a little bit random, so it's going to be up to you to determine where it's best to sell your crop at the moment. Go ahead and run that up there and get it sold off, and I'll check back in with you in just a few minutes. Okay, I am just selling off the last of my soybeans here. And that was another $7,000. So all told, my soybeans brought in about $42,000. If we look at our finance screen, we can see exactly how much. $41,000. This is harvest income right here. $41,412. Now, while I was taking care of my soybeans, harvesting and selling them, I had a helper do 2 different fertilizer contracts that brought in $38,000. So all told, I'm ahead on the day by $77,000. We've got some real money in the bank now. So that is one way that you can utilize helpers to make you money while you're doing other things. That's one of the reasons I like fertilizer contracts so much. They don't take much effort, and usually helpers can manage those without too much trouble, because that fertilizer spreader that we have covers a lot of area over a short amount of time. So that is extremely helpful. Now, I don't want the episode to get too long, so I think you've got a good handle on it at this point. You know how to harvest your fields. You know a little bit about what you can do with helpers. And I've got a few more topics I want to cover in future episodes. You've also got a better handle on how to sort out your prices and what prices to look for when you sell your crops. And those things all take just a little bit of practice, a little bit of keeping track of what's going on in your farming simulator world. But it's not too tough, and you'll get a feel for it over time. Come a time when you'll go, Harv, what are you thinking? You don't want to sell those soybeans at that price. You'll have a different reason or a different option. And that's great. That means that you are living your own farm life at that point. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you're not seeing a price that you like on that screen, you can just leave those soybeans in your silo because those prices are always changing. Which reminds me of something I should probably point out. So you see these little arrows. We'll just look at wheat right now. So there's a green arrow going up and a red arrow going down. What that means is right now the port grain elevator price is increasing. And it's going to keep going up until you see that arrow disappear. Anything that doesn't have an arrow, that means the price is not moving. Now the red arrow means your price is going down. So if you're at a good price, say if I wanted to sell wheat at the central grain elevator and there's a good price but I've got a red arrow, that means I need to get my grain over there as soon as possible before that price drops too far. On the other hand, if you've got a green arrow and that price is going up, that means you want to hold on to your grain until that price tops out and you can see what the maximum is for selling your crop. So again, you should have a little bit better handle on how to manage your crops at this point, when to sell them, when to hold on to them, and you'll sort a lot of this out just by playing through from time to time. But I think that's going to do it for part 5 of the Ravenport beginner's walkthrough. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. If there's something you'd like to see more information on, please let me know. I will be happy to add that in or just provide you with the information that you need. Anyway, I do appreciate you taking a look at this tutorial, and until next time, I do appreciate you taking a look at my tutorial on Ravenport. If you enjoyed it, learned something, or just found it entertaining, do me a favor. Remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. And until next time, take care.